this is your first time returning to the Falklands
Yes,
since
it is.
1982. Why did you decide to come on this trip?
We were already planning to come back, and we would have come, as a group of pals that we've stayed together, and we were looking at coming back for the 40th, but because of COVID and all that nonsense, it doesn't clear. So we'd actually I'd started planning for to come back next year, and then there was an opportunity for the draft, so we had all put our names in, and four of us were very lucky to get out here.
That's fantastic. And how does it feel returning to the Falklands, getting on that plane, coming down to the islands?
I felt like a kid at Christmas. I must admit that was, I know, it was exciting. It really was, and I felt very lucky.
Well, I wanted to have some closure, and I wanted Alice as well to be able to come and kind of earth her experiences locally. But for me, I wanted some closure and to work some things through. And I knew that when I retire, I would never be able to afford to come. So when the ballot came up, I decided to give it a go to see what happened. Didn't expect to get a ticket, but I was really happy when I did.
And on your trip, have you found that closure that you were looking for?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's helped me to put things in perspective. And I think that the welcome that we've had from the islanders has been phenomenal. And in terms of was it worth it, which I'm often asked, the fact that the people are here and they're happy to see us, they made us so welcome, and they've expressed their gratitude, it really means that, yeah, absolutely, yes, it was worth it. It was a principle that was worth fighting for.
And obviously, for you sort of being at home during that time and just sort of, hearing about it on the news, how does it feel to actually sort of come to the Falklands and see the place where it all happened?
Emotional, humbling. At the time, we saw it was really one of the first televised wars. So we'd never seen images like that on our screens before. So to see ships being bombed, people being maimed and taken off the ships, and the Falklands itself looked like Dartmoor. You saw these images back in the day of the soldiers walking across, and it looked quite sinister and scary. But coming here and actually seeing it in peace, with the sun shining as well. We've had quite a few days of sun, which has been bonus. But seeing it just as a beautiful place, a landscape, and people going about their daily lives, it's just so different. And it's really nice to see that it isn't this awful place. Because I think in my sort of psyche, I was still imagining it as a war-torn, desolate sort of place, but it really isn't. It's very beautiful. So,
is this your first time returning to the Falklands since 1980?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Yes, first time back. Yeah, because I never actually landed, so spent 108 days at sea, and I think I saw the Falklands once or twice, maybe. Like land, I'd actually, because I spent the majority of the time in the engine room and A gear room. Yeah.
And why did you decide to come on this sort of veterans pilgrimage to the Falklands?
I don't really know, actually. I just thought that it's time to come back, really. And I think if I hadn't done it now, I don't think I'd ever do it, to be honest with you. And obviously taking advantage of I just entered the ballot not thinking that I would be selected. So once it got selected, it was like, I've got to go and ask my boss for time off work. I've got to sort this out. And
And how does it feel returning? So when now seeing the Falklands, what's that feel like?
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, fantastic. Like the welcome, reception, hospitality has all been like top drawer, really fantastic, yeah.
So your husband was here during the Falklands War. What does it mean to you to sort of see the islands?
I originally thought, I wondered if it's worth it, because 8,000 miles away is a long way to go, and especially when I hadn't even heard of the Falklands at the time. And of course, when it all started off, we were checking to find out where places were. And it's been unique. That's the only way I can describe it. It's been a unique, pleasant, thoughtful situation to be in. It's been really marvellous, and the people have been absolutely fantastic. More British than we are.
And as you were just saying, you weren't born during 1982, but obviously your father fought here. You know, sort of seeing the islands and things like that, what does that mean to you?
When I trying to visualise it before I come here, and it wasn't until I got to the top of Mount Harriet yesterday, and I was like, wow, how these guys managed to do this? The terrain is just crazy. They were yomping through it. We were lucky enough to go up one of 4x4, and it was just not easy doing it that, but I can't imagine walking it and stuff like that, and I just feel immensely proud by everyone that did it, and really happy to be here.
And I mean, did you know much about sort of what your husband was doing during the campaign? Did he sort of speak much about it?
It took a while for him. It took about sort of 6 months before he actually said what it was like. And then I spoke to his oppos, his mates as well, and little drips and jabs were slowly coming out, you know. I mean, I was lucky, mine came back as well. And that's the only way I can describe it, you know. So.
And the past few days we've had the Remembrance Parade here in Stanley and the wreath laying parade, and sort of, you know, as the veterans are all marching past and people of the community sort of applauding them as they're walking past, sort of, what does that sort of mean to you just to hear that and experience that?
Oh my
Humbling.
God, very, very humbling.
I feel a bit guilty being in the walks with them, because me personally, I feel like I don't deserve to be here for that reason, but I had to remind myself we're here for my dad, and it's nice to be. We were told we were welcomed as like next of kin to the island, and that was like overwhelming in such a nice way.
I found it sort of slightly embarrassing to start off with, and then my boy here. No, it's humbling, Mum. It's humbling.
It was emotional, to be honest, especially the children. And today the scouts and the guides and the beavers and squirrels, and I haven't seen a squirrel before like that. But yeah, to have that, and the welcome, everybody that we've met has been very, very welcoming. So all the way through all of the age ranges, from people that were here at the time and suffered under the invasion and then celebrated our victory, all the way through to children now that are still understand what happened, at least as far as they can, and still thank us for it. It is very emotional.
Well, it feels very humbling, really. Yeah, it's like very humbling and very proud. So.
I think what I was saying earlier on, that it's important, and we are appreciated. We're very clearly appreciated, more than appreciated. Where, you know, I think people have taken us into their hearts, and you know, I think it's wonderful.
And I mean, it's sort of now coming to the end of your trip here. Are you glad you came?
Definitely, most definitely. I think we were very lucky, especially to come on the 40th anniversary as well. If it hadn't been for Matthew, I wouldn't have gone into the ballot for Summer. And so extremely humbled, thankful, and something I never ever forget as long as I live, you know.
And I found, speaking to the veterans, they seem to be quite happy that someone who wasn't there, like a son of a veteran, can take the stories home and share it with the people of the UK, so people are more aware of it.
You've had a good trip then?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, and I can only thank the Falkland Islands for being so hospitable.
I think being able to talk to some of the other veterans has been good, but really talking to the locals and meeting families of people, grieving families that lost, you know, next to kin they're called, aren't they, when they've lost somebody. All of it really has been very helpful. And I think before I landed, I did feel quite apprehensive, and I didn't know how I would respond to being here. But it's actually all of that has been laid to rest, and I feel really this is just a beautiful place. I don't suppose I'll ever come back, although I'd love to, but it's so I'm trying to savour all of what I have while I'm here, and it's just been really rewarding and fantastic.
And what are some of your highlights of the trip?
Well, I think the welcome, everybody's welcome, has been phenomenal. This morning, listening to the Military Wives Choir blew me away. I mean, I got so emotional in that service because they are where I was at. So, sorry, just a little bit emotional, but that was precious. Yeah.